So hi Alex, it's nice to see you again.
It's good to see you again, Heather.
How are you feeling today?
I'm doing well.
Okay, so I know that you've recently experienced some self-harming or harm to others. So how do you feel right now?
I feel good today, although last week there were some pretty negative things going through my mind.
Okay, so are you feeling like you want to self-harm right now?
No,
No, and harm someone else?
no, definitely
No?
not.
Okay. Um, so what I would like to do with you is I would like to develop a safety plan so that when you do have experiencing these unwanted thoughts or feelings of harming yourself, or if you harming someone else, that we have a plan of action of steps that you could take so that you can prevent getting through that moment of those feelings in a different way so that you're protecting yourself from harming yourself.
Okay.
Does that sound like something that you'd be willing to do?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so the first step in the plan um, is to recognize the signs or the feelings that you're having when you're thinking of self-harm. So that you know when you will use the safety plan. So when you think of the times that you've in the past that you've just thought about self-harming or attempted self-harm, how do you know that you're feeling that way? What kind of thoughts are you experiencing?
It's just this negative spiral that I get into. Sometimes it's not even a very traumatic experience that I can experience this with. I can just sit all day by myself and just slowly get to this point that seems like no return for me.
So do you feel like you experiencing these thoughts when you're alone?
Yes.
Okay.
Definitely when I'm alone.
What kind of, if you could describe the feeling that you're having during this time, whether it be angry or sad or
It's just overwhelming
overwhelmed?
sadness.
Overwhelming sadness. So when you start to feel overwhelmed, the sadness kind of comes in with that.
Mm-hmm.
And so what would you say, what do you experience when you start to think about suicide or feel extremely distressed?
It's like I just want to isolate myself even more,
So wanting isolation.
and I feel like that just makes it worse. I know that makes it worse.
So when you start to have these feelings that you want to be alone, you're starting to feel sad. You're starting to feel like you want to isolate yourself from other individuals are signs that you might be wanting to attempt self-harm.
Yes.
Okay, so warning signs we are going to list as your loneliness or you're feeling alone. When you start to feel that isolation, when you start to feel like you're isolating yourself from others, when you start to feel sad, when you start to feel lonely. So the next step in the plan is going to be the internal coping strategies. And these are things that you want to ask yourself, what can I do on my own to not be, if I become suicidal, to help myself not act on these thoughts?
Mm-hmm.
How likely do you think you would be able to do this during a time of crisis?
I think it would be a little hard for me, but I think that I would be able to.
What might stand in your way when you're having these thoughts?
It's just this feeling that I feel that I shouldn't deserve to be better, but I'm able to fight this sometimes, and I feel like I can definitely do that with this plan. If I had just other coping mechanisms that I would be able to rely on.
Okay. So what are some things that you think that might work for you to help stop these thoughts that you have when you're starting to feel overwhelmed and to feel isolated?
Just this plan that we're talking about.
Okay.
Having set steps that I can follow, just steps that are written down that I wouldn't have to think of the next thing and the next thing to do.
Okay. Would you like me to help with you with some suggestions of things that you might be able to try? So do breathing exercises work for you at all?
Yes.
Or do you have any activities that you like to do?
I like
Do you
guitar.
like to exercise, play guitar? Is this something that you could maybe attempt to have as your coping mechanisms to, when you start to feel this way, start to breathe, take deep breaths, and then say, okay, now I need to go get my guitar and play the guitar for 5 minutes to drown out this feeling of overwhelming and sadness.
Mhm.
How does that make you feel typically when you play the guitar?
I feel like that could help. I definitely feel like that could help.
That could help, okay. So play the guitar. Take breaths. Is there anything else you like to do? Do you like to exercise? Do you like to, any other hobbies that you might have?
I like to run sometimes.
Run, okay.
I feel like that really helps.
Yes. Is that something that you think you could do if you start to feel overwhelmed? Do you think your internal clock could say, let me just go run around the block or run up and down the stairs? Or
I think so.
you think
Definitely.
so? Okay. How likely do you think that you would utilize these things during a time of crisis?
Now that you're bringing them up, I feel like I could.
So having these ideas in the back of your mind, you feel like now that you've got, if you write them down and have the plan, that you would be able to utilize these when you're feeling self-harm?
Yes.
Okay, good. So if you get to the point where step 2 is a little bit much for you, and you're finding yourself not being able to get out of these thoughts and to go and do the coping mechanisms that we've talked about, this step 3 is the next step, and this would be something that you would utilize if step 2, the mechanisms, the coping skills, are not working for you.
Mm-hmm.
So do you have some people in your life that are important to you?
I do.
Who or what helps take your mind off your problems, at least momentarily or for a little while? Who helps you feel better when you socialize with them?
I have always relied on talking to my mom.
Okay, so
She
your
really
mother.
helps. Mm-hmm.
And you have her phone number.
I do.
Okay, so what is her phone number?
Is 907 929 9458.
And who else in your life is
I have my brother.
your brother?
My brother helps me out a lot with things.
Okay. And do you know what his phone number is?
I do.
Okay.
It's 907
Uh-huh.
351
Uh-huh.
2838.
And if the people that can't necessarily are not readily available, or you feel like you can't, do you have places, public places that you can go to that you feel safe at,
I do. I have.
that involve people?
I like to go to the library
Okay.
sometimes.
Okay.
I thought like that's helped in the past.
The library? Okay. What would be another place if the library wasn't near or wasn't open?
I've been going to the gym sometimes.
The gym, okay, the gym. So the gym, and they have extended hours typically, so that could be a place that you could go
I do.
if you're not able to get a hold of these people. So the next step is going to be the contacting of family members. If step 3 doesn't work, and that's obviously your mother and your brother are very close, your close social circle. Who else in your family, or what friends do you have that may be able to offer some help and resolve the crisis? Among your family or friends, who do you think you could contact during a crisis?
I've been friends with somebody from elementary school. His name is Eric.
Okay.
He's always really reliable.
And who else?
And my best friend Kelby lives in another state.
Okay. And who else?
Derek. He's always been a good friend.
Okay. And then I would also have you write their phone numbers down on this paper for you to have, so that the phone numbers are readily available, so that if you're not remembering phone numbers, that you have that stuff down.
Mm-hmm.
How likely would you be willing to contact these individuals if there was a crisis?
They've helped me out in the past before, so I really feel that they would be willing in the future.
Mm-hmm.
I know I can be a little much at sometimes, but they're just, everyone that you're listing so far is just so reliable to me. So
Have you ever expressed to them before about your intent to self-harm or your ideas to self-harm?
I have.
So what, so they are aware that if you're calling them, that they may need to really answer the phone at that moment if they're able to?
Yeah.
Okay. Have you thought about a code that you could maybe text to them, or something that you could let them identify that this is a distress call? Or
I've never thought that, no.
is that something that you'd be willing to explore too? So
Yeah.
that you can put down, and it's just an extra step to that when you're feeling this way. And then maybe think about that for yourself too, that simple code word, like I'm feeling this color today, I'm feeling red, so I better,
Okay.
you know, that kind of thing. So again, this is the steps. You do the steps in order. If this step didn't work, then you have the next step is step 5, and that's contacting professional help.
Okay.
And that's something that typically can be very scary for a lot of people to do. So do you have mental health professionals that we should identify on your safety plan? Do you have a current clinician?
I do.
Okay. And who would that be?
Dr. John, that's what most people call him.
Dr. John, okay.
Mhm.
And we have Dr. John's phone number, and we've got that listed. Does he have an emergency number or contact number?
He does.
He does, okay. So I think that was on the list. Is there another agency or another alternative you could call? Or would you like us to help you find another alternative just in case he's not available?
It'd be nice
Okay.
if you could help me find another one.
Okay, we've got some that we've got listed, and we will write this down on your plan with those numbers. So some of the local things that you could call too is that, are you aware that there's a suicide prevention hotline that you can call, and they are available 24 hours. There is also a local VA suicide prevention hotline that you could call. They are available 24 hours. Some of the things that you can think about if you're not able to call these people is, you know, to call some of these hotlines, and they have trained professionals that are willing to assist at any given time. So which means would you consider using during a suicidal crisis to reduce the risk of using? Do you own a firearm to reduce the risks of self-harm? Do you own a firearm, such as a gun or a rifle?
I do.
What other means do you have access to that could potentially self-harm or kill yourself?
I mean, I have rope, I have a car, a garage. I can't think of any others right now.
Okay. So is this something, are you willing to go and develop a plan that might assist you in restricting your access to some of these
Yes,
weapons and
definitely.
removing firearms or removing, you know, ammunition or, you know, things like that from yourself until you feel like you are completely safe from this?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so
You're at 15.
So do you have a place that you are able to keep this safety plan so you have access to it at all times?
Yes.
Okay. And I think that this is something that, are you willing to review about every 3 to 4 months, just to make sure that everything's still current, and that if we need to update any changes, we can do that?
Definitely.
Okay.
I've
And it's really important to know that this plan is just a tool, and hopefully it's a tool that you will utilize in the resources, but just remembering the steps to the plan and going over each part of the plan could be really helpful, and hopefully that's something that you would be willing to use during your time of distress.
definitely.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you. We will get your copy made up, and you will be all set.
All right.
Thank
you
you.
so much, Heather.
Thank you.